And we are now recording. Um, Again, for those that do not know me, my name is Andrea Wilson. I am an interim manager for our recruiting coordinators right now, and I will be in the background. You'll see me, but Erica Bowman will be our moderator for today. But I will be making sure things are running smoothly as we have our webinar today. Before we get started, I wanted to just give some housekeeping rules before we get started. During this session, if you've already applied for a position, we won't be able to give status updates. We just want to be able to get through as much information as possible since we only have an hour. So if you are having questions regarding that, where you are in the process and things like that, you can send us an email. Send that to recruiting@k12.com, and then you'll be connected with a recruiter. We will be having a Q&A session later on in this presentation, so feel free to save your questions till that time. We may answer it while we are going through our slide deck, but we will have a Q&A session. We'll be able to answer as many questions as possible, and so feel free to still introduce yourself in the chat box if you are just joining, because I do see more people joining. Welcome. And again, this session will be recorded and we'll be sending that out later. But just wanted to go through those housekeeping rules. So I am going to turn it over to Erica, and she's going to have our panelists just to introduce themselves, and then we will talk a little bit about Stride. So take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Erica Bowman. I am an academic recruiter over here at Stride. I currently represent our Texas schools, TOPS and TIVA, but I have also assisted many other schools such as Alabama, New Mexico, Washington, and whatnot. So I have done a little bit of everything, but mainly focusing right now on TOPS and TIVA. I'm about to come on my 1-year anniversary next month, and I'm still in denial that March is tomorrow, so that's super exciting. We're going to go ahead and introduce some of our key speakers here today, get to know them. If you guys would love to say what school you're from, your title, how long you've been with the company, that would be great. So Kara, we'll start it off with you.
Hello, everyone. I am Kara Owen. I teach kindergarten. I teach with INDLS, and I have been here since the fall of 2019. So 4th year here.
Nice. Thank you, Kara. And Jessica?
Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Jessica Higgins, and I am an 8th grade math teacher and the 8th grade lead teacher for Texas Online Preparatory School. And this is my 7th year with K12 Stride.
Perfect. Thank you, Jessica. Bethany?
Hi, everybody. My name is Bethany McLean, and I am the Special Education Director for High Point Virtual Academy of Michigan. So I am surrounded by the Great Lakes. I know you guys are jealous. Although the snow out there, you might not be jealous. I have been with K12 Stride for about 3 years now.
Perfect. Thank you, Bethany. And Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy Luderman. I am the Elementary Academic Administrator Principal for Indiana Digital Learning School, INDLS, in Indiana. I am in Northwest Indiana, so I am near Lake Michigan, down the street from me. So I know what you mean by cold. And I've been with Stride for 5 years.
Perfect. Thank you, Amy. All right, so a little bit about you guys to know who Stride is and what we represent if you are unfamiliar. We are a leading provider for online learning for grades K through 12, but during our process of being a company, and we've been around for 20 years, so online learning and teaching is nothing new to us. I know a lot of people got to dabble it with the pandemic, but we have been around for a hot minute, so we've been around for about 20 years. We have also acquired some additional companies such as Tech Elevator, MedCerts, Galvanize, that come incorporated with those. So not only are we, a leading provider within the grades of K through 12, but we have some additional schools platforms that we have acquired and are slowly growing as a company. So very exciting, things that are coming abroad with Stride. If you want to go to the next slide. All right, so I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about, the difference between a brick and mortar and kind of what virtual teaching looks like. With the teachers panels that we have on board during this platform, it's a great time to kind of dabble in their minds what their daily schedule looks like, how it can be somewhat different, but very similar to a brick and mortar aspect of it. So as far as a daily schedule, Kara, if you would love to talk about what that looks like at an elementary level, that would be great.
Sure. Our schedule is set up so that we have ELA courses and math courses, and then we have 2 hours of combined courses. We look at our data and divide our students according to their needs. I teach from 9 o'clock in the morning until 9:45. I have an ELA class, 9:45 to 10:30 ELA class, and then an hour combined math and ELA. And then in the afternoon, I have a 30-minute math, 30-minute math, and 1 hour ELA combined. Start my day at 8 and just make sure that my classes are set up for the morning, respond to any emails, try to make sure that I've got my day ready. Stop teaching at 2, and then 2 to 4, we have meetings a couple of days, or one day, sometimes more than one, and then get phone calls in, grades, contact parents, respond to emails. And so that is kindergarten life.
Perfect. And how big would you say probably your caseload is at kindergarten? Your student ratio?
Sure. Right now I have 60 students, but with the way that we're broken up, the most I have in a session is 20. So pretty small. In a brick and mortar, I would have anywhere from 15 to 27. So pretty similar to that. And you do get some one-on-one time with those students. So very similar to brick and mortar in that way.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Jessica, do you want to talk a little bit about middle school?
Sure. I will preface this with saying that as this is my 7th year with Stride, and every single year I've had a different teaching schedule, depending on the school you're at or what the year is, how many students you have, teachers ratio, data, everything, it kind of changes year to year. But this year, I log on at 8, just like Kara, and I don't teach until 10:45. So my morning is answering all the emails that have come in, looking at anything that I need to grade, attending any 504 meetings or IEP special education meetings that might have popped up in the morning. And then at 10:45 to 11:30, I teach my math class whole group. And I have 78 students in my class, but I teach like an accelerated pre-AP math class. So it's a bit smaller than the typical class at my school. The other math teachers have more like 150, can get up to 170, 180, but they try to keep it around 150, which is actually very comparable to what I had in brick and mortar in the middle school level. And then I have a targeted small group from 11:30 to 12. And that the group changes day to day, Monday through Thursday, based on the need and the instructional level of the students. And that group is about 25 students or less. And those are my 2 classes that I teach Monday through Thursday. And then we have PLC meetings. We meet once a week with our PLC group. So my 8th grade math team will meet on Mondays at around 12:15. And we go through our slides for the next week and talk about anything we need to go through and make sure students understand. It's a very collaborative environment at my school. Everything we do, we plan together. We plan within PowerPoint because that's what we use within our classroom, which is Neuro. It's kind of like Zoom. And then Fridays, we don't have any actual classes, but we do have what we call Genius Hour, which is clubs and things like that. So sorry about that alarm that went off to pick up my kids. Don't worry, they're fine. And so Monday through Thursday we have academic classes. Friday we have clubs. We do staff meetings in the afternoons on Mondays. We have every other week we have a teacher training session on Thursdays at 4 o'clock. So we're constantly getting new ideas and professional development and things like that. But a lot of phone calls and emails and communicating with families throughout the day.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jessica. Bethany, if you want to talk a little bit about what special education looks like as far as a daily schedule?
Sure. So caseloads vary, obviously. Every teacher has their own caseload of students, which in Michigan, we're around 20 students per caseload. And then teachers look at their student needs, set up times to meet with their students based on their IEP goal areas and the resource minutes. So there may be small group, it may be one-on-one, and I also have some teachers that do some push-in support and some co-teaching. It just sort of depends on their caseload and what their student needs are. And then throughout the day, there is time set aside for paperwork because in special ed, the paperwork is insane. So we have time set aside for paperwork, for scheduling IEP meetings. We have lunch break fit in there. And then it just sort of, like I said, depends on the student needs based on the caseload and whatever works best for our students. So we're pretty much the same as far as an 8 to 4, 4:30 schedule every day. Days of the week vary, of course, depending on student needs. We collaborate really closely with the general education teachers to make sure that we're following the state standards and that our IEP goals are appropriate and focused on what is best for our students. So a lot of individuality in there for our special education students, which is what IEPs are for, that individual need. So yeah, it's pretty similar. It just depends on what the student needs are and what your days look like. Could vary from week to week, could vary from month to month, marking periods. It just depends on those student needs. So
Perfect.
there you
Thank
go.
you so much, Bethany. I think that gives a great segue when you say about paperwork and being so extensive on the special education side about the digital tools and resource that here at Stride that we provide for our teachers to help, really be successful as a virtual teacher. Can you kind of tap into, what kind of different platforms you use and, how it kind of helps you, with being a virtual teacher?
Sure, and I can speak to that again from the special education perspective. So we use for meetings, sometimes we use Zoom, sometimes we use Neuro, which is a platform that is similar to Blackboard, similar to Zoom. So for meetings, we use teachers have a little bit of a leeway for what works best for them. All of technology is provided, all the resources are provided. Any resources that are necessary, especially for our special education population, we make sure that they have everything they need according to their IEPs. So we provide any tools that the students need on their computers, anything else that they might need to support their education based on their IEP plans. So
Perfect. Thank you so much. Jessica, what about you? What does digital tools and resources kind of look like at the middle school level?
Well, for TOPS, for my school, we use a platform it was called USA Test Prep, but they changed the name this week to Progress Learning. But it's an external tool for creating assessments so we can create our questions and kind of track data on that website. And they have a program within that called Liftoff, where students can work on gaps they have in math and ELA through games. And things like that, which is really fun. We also use ClassKick on our campus, which is a really great tool for tracking students and having them working. I use it a lot within my live classes. They go to ClassKick and I can see live what they're doing on each slide within there, which is really great. I love that. But honestly, we have anything that ClassKick is new this year for us. And it was something that a teacher discovered last year and brought it to our admin and said, this is a really cool tool. And we looked into it and they said, we love it. And so they purchased some licenses for our campus this year. So if there's a need and a teacher presents it and we see the value, they're really supportive in giving us whatever we need to help students be successful. I know for science, they have a program called Gizmos that they use. And also even offline, anything that students need for their classes, especially science, they get mailed to them at home. So they get big boxes full of lab kits and things so they can actually do some hands-on learning. For math, they get a workbook that they can actually write in and take notes in, and a textbook as well. So there's lots of different resources, and like Bethany said, whatever they need, we make sure that they get.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It's so nice and refreshing to hear, you know, a company that's been around for 20 plus years is still a big key about being innovative and catering to our students' needs and looking at different platforms and what we can use to be better and strive to be better, to, you know, really better assist our students. So I would love hearing that from you and seeing that we were, you know, found something new to help better strive and support our students. So thank you for that. So now student parent engagement, I'm sure it looks a little bit different than it does probably at a brick and mortar since we can't physically be there in front of our parents. Kara, would you mind talking about what that kind of looks like on the kindergarten level?
Sorry, I was having trouble unmuting. Sure. Actually, that was one, just having learning coaches with my students was one of like my biggest fears coming here. But honestly, it's been amazing because you are able to work with the students and parents live, and any skill that we're working on, just talk with the parents. You know, this is how we teach this. This is how, this is what we're looking for. And it has really been beneficial. You know, when the students are coming to class and the learning coaches are by their side, oftentimes those are the students that are going to get the most out of class. And so having the parents there is, for me, is pretty awesome because then the kids can get logged into, we use ClassKick as well. During class, they're able to get logged in there. We use Renaissance, which has Freckle in it. And we do testing through Renaissance. So having the parent there does help with that. And then as far as parents, you know, we are often in contact with parents if there are things going on. We do use our time to get in touch and just try to stay involved with those families.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm sure, Jessica, it looks a little bit different on your level with middle schoolers and not having so much of a learning curve and getting to know technology since they're already in that pathway. Can you speak a little bit about what the student and parent engagement looks like at your level?
Absolutely. I know as they get older, you kind of see a shift. The parent sort of steps back and the student sort of steps forward. I actually teach 7th graders that are taking 8th grade math, but I've taught 7th graders, 8th graders, and 6th graders before. But so in middle school, you see a transition, and I'll hear mostly from students who will actually be directly emailing with me. I still do get several parents who will kind of follow up and say, my kid said this, is this accurate? You know, and so I'm still in communication with both. I definitely text message a lot with the parents and talk to parents on the phone. But we really encourage students at this level to be the one to advocate for themselves. We do a lot of educating on email etiquette and how to write a good professional email, which is kind of fun throughout the year to see some of the emails we get. And I know in high school, I saw a question about high school, that it's mostly the students that are really reaching out and being in communication. So in our live classes, we really don't see learning coaches that are actually in class or sitting with their students, but we do see learning coaches that email and say, I watched that recording and saw this happened, or things like that. So it's a good mixture, but we do have it's a more student heavy communication and engagement, but it is great. That's one of the things I love, is that you have a learning coach who is really involved in their child's, or whether it's a neighbor or an aunt or uncle, the learning coach is really involved in the student's education. So there's really a team effort going on between the learning coach, the teacher, and the student, which is really great.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jessica. Any more lightning things behind that, Bethany, for the student and parent engagement on the special education level?
Just you know, virtual IEP meetings are different, a little bit different. There's no donuts or cookies brought by parents, so you have to keep that in mind. However, it is actually participation. We have really high participation. You know, parents can log in, take a break at work, log in and attend the meeting. You know, we've had learning coaches, say grandma's the learning coach, also in the meeting with mom and dad. So we have a lot of flexibility with participants with having our meetings virtually. So other than that, lots of email, phone calls, just reaching out to families. And um, it's just you get used to the electronic communications, right? Instead of seeing the parent in front of you when they're picking up their kid at the end of the day, you don't have that, right? So you have to adjust a little bit. So emails, newsletters, any of those communications are very important. And we have, it's hard to imagine that the communication would flow as well as it does, but parents, I think, really love the convenience of shooting us an email versus having to come into the school and talk to us, which could take 30 minutes, out of their day. They like that quick communication. So, yeah, just a lot of electronic communications. But like I said, the availability, the flexibility is great. Families really, really respond well to that.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So we definitely want to talk about professional development. It is something that we strive for as a company, a big platform on that we really push with, our current team members. We want to grow and develop and take on bigger and better roles. And I'm sure you guys all saw the tenure here on this panelist list right now. So Amy, if you want to touch a little bit about what kind of professional development looks like here at Stride.
It depends sometimes on the actual location you're working at or the school you're working for, but we do offer in-person professional development 3 times a year with our teachers. Gives a chance for the teachers to meet each other in person, get to spend time with each other, get to work on those curriculum maps and work on that collaboration on things that it's a little bit harder to do online. And we can do some team building. We do that 3 times a year, beginning, middle, and end. As far as other professional development nationally, Stride has K-12 training, which offers all the teachers different opportunities to train on anything they might be interested in. We just had Promising Practices, which happens every year, where all of the staff, and we let in outside people to attend, where you get training on different things that are happening. I know there was one that happened last week that was on teaching through Fortnite. So you learn the Fortnite platform, you can teach through Fortnite. I had a ton of my teachers that were interested in that. I know that most of the schools, if not all the schools, offer for anything you're interested in. So if you seek something out, you want to go to something professional development that's maybe happening in your state, it's something that you're interested in, we usually do whatever we can to make sure it happens for the teachers. We also let them expense it if possible, so that they can get those opportunities to extend their learning throughout their professional career.
Thank you. And I do see now there is a question in our Q&A talking about curriculum and lessons plans and what that kind of looks like at Stride, if we provide it, if they're able to alter it. So can you tap in a little bit about what that kind of looks like?
Sure, I can touch both bases. For K through 5, we have a platform called OLS, Online Learning School. That platform is, the curriculum itself is set in a timeline, and then each teacher has the opportunity to adjust that to what fits their students' needs. They can use what's called teacher managed schedule. They go in, they adjust things, they can add more curriculum, they can do that, they can use that Class Kick platform and then enter some of those grades into the grade book. It allows them to adjust things as they need and to create new lessons in there, but it does have the what would be the state standards in a timeline. Then curriculum mapping, every state does it different, but the teachers then have an opportunity to do that with their team to make adjustments as they need, so those state standards get covered that they really think are those important state standards. Now with 6th grade up, they use a platform called D2L, Desire to Learn. That platform allows the teachers to make all kinds of adjustments. They have announcements that get sent out to the students. They can adjust their curriculum however they need to. They can embed quizzes in there. They can embed essays in there. They have the opportunity to change it however they need to, but they still would follow those state standards and create those curriculum maps. Now, one good thing about being here is you don't have those lesson plans, those scary lesson plans that take you 2 million hours to create. That are like 5 5 pages a piece for one lesson. You wouldn't do those because you do have the curriculum already there for you, mapped out. There are the tools there already that you can refer back to. So your curriculum map is usually some sort of Word document or Excel spreadsheet that covers the whole month or the whole quarter or the whole semester, depending on what your school specifically needs to happen. So it's definitely a different planning experience, and I would say an easier planning experience. I'm sure the teachers agree with me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Bethany, any more insight into curriculum and lesson plans and what that kind of looks like at the special education level?
So we have a lot of resources available for teachers to use with students based on their IEP goal areas and where they fall as far as what their needs are. Pretty much anything you can imagine, if it's online, we have access to it. So, small groups of students, there might be a lesson that's created based on, themes in literature or, whatever those goals are if they have in common for, a small group of students. So teacher may create a lesson really focused on specific skills, or they may have students break off into some online programs to use. We have like Readtopia, we have Math Seeds, we have just all these great programs that students really enjoy using. So it's a little bit of both. There's a lot of freedom for teachers to add in their own pizzazz. I had teachers dressing up and just being completely ridiculous using YouTube videos. The students just crack up, but they're engaged, and we have the tools that they enjoy using, their computers. So it's a mixture of both. There's some creativity on the teacher side, and then there's also some programs available that students can really focus in, hone in on some specific skills that they need. So it's a little bit of both, and students they're engaged. They love the YouTube videos. They love the Math Seeds. They love anything that seems like a game, and we trick them into learning. So it just kind of works out for everybody.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So with this all too, we got teacher evaluations that have to happen, even though we are in a virtual setting. Amy, can you talk about what that looks like at your level?
Sure. Teacher evaluations are something we have done ever since we started. But this year we started something new nationally with Stride, which is called Standards for Success, which is a program that allows you to give that instant feedback. So when you go in and into those live sessions and you're watching your teachers, you're able to give them instant feedback. It divides a walkthrough into different categories and groups. You can go in there, you can write up your suggestions, you rate the teachers, and those happen throughout the year. There's usually 2 a month, and then you have like 1 formal each semester. But that allows the teachers to get instant feedback for any ideas that you're ready to, like, oh, I saw that you did this, but you could do this. The teachers get the instant feedback as soon as you get done writing it up. It literally goes directly to the teacher and they're able to see it. So it's a really convenient way for the teachers to get that feedback and be able to know how they're doing and know if there's anything they might want to, like ideas that they might want to adapt into their classes.
Perfect. Thank you all so much for answering these questions of kind of what does it look like, teaching virtually and Stride, developing and our current staff and professional development, what that looks like, some great insight for people that are interested in our company, which the next step is, now that you guys have heard a little bit more about us, about how to apply for one of our amazing teaching positions. So a couple of different things. What you'll need to do is go to our website, which is stridelearning.com/careers. Within that, there's going to be, you're going to be able to pull up all of our different postings that we do have. Now at the top, there's going to be a panel for a Boolean search where you can search on what subject matter you want to teach, what state you're residing in. I will say most of our schools do require state residency within that state, and some do not. How you can kind of find the difference is when you click on a position that you are interested in. Say that you reside in the state of Texas and you're looking for a math teaching position. You pull it up in the body of the the job description is going to say residency requirement, and it will let you know if you need to reside in that state, if you can reside within the surrounding states, or if you can live anywhere within the US. So like I said, most of our schools do require residency within the state. There are some that will accept the surrounding states, and there are even schools that will accept anywhere within the US. How you can tell the difference between those, between the kind of state requirements and the virtual ones where you can reside within the US, is it will have the title of virtual within that job description. So that's probably a big key takeaway you can look at, is if you reside within a state that does, unfortunately, Stride does not have a school, but you're still interested in joining us, you can do a Boolean search with virtual and whatever kind of subject you're looking to teach, and go based off there. Once we get your application, and we do highly suggest that you apply to as many or as few positions that you are interested in, it just kind of betters your chances. Once we get your application on the recruiting level, we are then going to see to make sure, A, you are certified within that subject. So please do attach a copy of your teaching certification, your active teaching certification. And kind of if you're, looking within that salary range that we do offer. Now, since we have schools all throughout the US, we do have salary ranges depending on where the school is located and what that kind of looks like. Your recruiter would let you know what that looks like if you're inquiring about it. And then we'll send you over to a digital interview, which is done through HireVue. What we're really looking for is a lesson plan. So yes, we want to see what it would look like if you were to be a virtual teacher and teach virtually. So we do require a lesson plan for you to sit there and let you teach us something new. Usually it is done through YouTube, and you put your YouTube link up in there. And then once we get that information, we're going to then send it over to the hiring manager, which is usually the principal, so they can review it and request a virtual interview. After that, hopefully an offer is coming your way, and then you're hearing from the recruiting team again. So kind of a little bit of streamlined process of what it looks like to apply for our positions. Again, big takeaways is it is a Boolean search bar. You can search within your subject, within your state. And if unfortunately we don't have a state school within your state, you can search based on virtual, and those are the schools that will allow you to work with anywhere within the US. Perfect. Next slide, please. Awesome. So now that we have heard a little bit about Stride, what it kind of looks like to be a teacher, how to apply for these positions, I would love to hear what kind of questions that you guys have. So we will look through the Q&A here really quick.
I saw a question about classroom management in the virtual classroom. So I wanted to address that real quick. Honestly, it's the most amazing thing ever, because there is a mute button, and there's also a turn your cameras off button. And so that's pretty amazing. There is a chat. You can turn the chat off. So a lot of the time it's, let's keep everything on topic. We'll have to turn the chat off. It's kind of just turning mic and chat on and off as needed. I usually keep mics off and turn one on at a time for specific students. You do set up expectations in your classroom, just like you do in brick and mortar. When we have whiteboard tools, this is the expectation. When we have chat open, this is the expectation. But that's been one of the most amazing things is, you know what? We're just going to turn that off, and I'm going to keep teaching, and it's going to be pretty awesome. So yeah, I thought that was the best.
Awesome. Now, I do see a question in here from Megan about, are the lessons planned pre-recorded or live? So Kara, if you want to talk a little bit about if they're pre-recorded or live lessons plans that you do.
We teach our lessons live. They are recorded, so if a student misses class, then they can go back and watch the recordings. We are actually piloting a new curriculum in kindergarten, and they will have teacher taught lessons in the curriculum, but when we meet, we are live. We also use Neuro. I think Jessica mentioned that they use Neuro. There is the camera, microphone, and chat that you just get to turn off. So
perfect. Thank you so much. Now, I do see a question in here from Store about, do teachers normally get summer and winter break and holidays? It really would depend on the school and what state it is assigned to and what school district. I will say most of our K-12 schools do run in near a brick and mortar schedule. I can speak particularly towards our Texas schools. They do get a winter, summer, and spring break, along with some PTO time and the major holidays off. So majority of our schools will get the typical teacher schedule, so to speak, and get those break times. We do pay year long as well, which is fantastic. So there, during those breaks, you are getting your biweekly pay as well, but it really would take into consideration what school that you're applying to and what that school district looks like. So if you are inquiring about a particular school and school district, please make sure to email us at recruiting@k12.com, and then we will be able to assist to answer your question a little bit better. But like I said, normally we're going to run on that teacher schedule.
I just saw a question about Orton Gillingham training, like if they want teachers that are Orton Gillingham trained. I know that our school district and a lot of the schools do have reading specialists who they do like to have the Orton Gillingham trained. So it just depends on exactly where you're applying as to what they need.
Perfect. I do see a question in here is there any traveling for state testing and what that kind of looks like? So Jessica, can you assist us with?
I can answer that. That's why I'm not home right now. For the state of Indiana, and I would say any public school. So it depends. If you are working with a Stride school that is a public school, then you would be held to the same procedures, policies as any other school, especially any brick and mortar. So you would have to do that state testing. So you would have to do your iLearns, your iRead, your iStep, your SATs, whatever's that district's or that state's requirements. And usually what a lot of the schools do is they try to keep the teachers as close to their own homes to test. And not make them travel to test their own students. They usually work as a team. The whole school will work as a team to test the students in their areas. So you do have to do some travel, but it's not like you're traveling around the whole state to test every single kid in 3rd grade for iRead. You're testing the kids that are in your area.
If they do have you travel, which they usually ask for volunteers, if you're outside of the 60 miles from your home, they will provide a hotel and they pay for the travel. One year they asked for volunteers. So I volunteered to go to El Paso, Texas, where my sister lived. So I got a free trip, free flight, rental car, everything to go visit my sister for a week, which was pretty awesome. But anything that they ask you to travel for, professional development or testing, they will, they pay for your travel expenses, which is great.
Perfect. Thank you, guys. Great. Just reading through some of these questions that y'all have. A lot of people are asking as far as what hours look like. It would depend on the position and the school that you are applying to. Just like we have the residency requirement within every single job description of what that looks like, we will indicate at the very top of the job description so it's easier for you guys if it is a part-time or full-time position. So please refer to every job and every school is kind of going to be different on that. When you open the job description, you'll be able to see if it's part-time or full-time. I will say probably 80 to 90% of our positions are going to be full-time openings. Your typical Monday through Friday, 8 to 4, 9 to 5 position. And like I said, it would indicate that in the job description.
A question about substitutes and if you're out or absent for a day, if you're sick. And that is one of those things that's really great at this environment because if everything's recorded. So if I have a suddenly last second sick day, then I can just get the recording of a PLC teammate and send that to my students. And if I don't have to do sub plans and prepare. And also if I know long-term absences like maternity leave and things like that, they will get an actual substitute to fill in. But again, we do team planning and things like that. So that sub will be taken care of by that team. But the flexibility, I have not had to use all of my days off ever in the 7 years that I've been here, because there's a lot of flexibility within the day for the most part, at least at my school. We get an hour lunch, but if we need to extend that a little bit for a doctor's appointment or a dentist appointment, then it's really flexible in that way. I have a son who has some medical needs, and so he has frequent doctor's visits. So I've really, unless he's having a procedure, I really don't have to take the days off to go take him to those appointments. I just let my principal know I'm going to be out for an extended lunch today. I'll make up this time later and get my job done, and everything's great. So that flexibility is great. And then when you're out covering for your class and making sure your students have what they need for the day is also great. They still get to do school. They still have their online platform lessons to go through, and they still have a class recording. So they really don't miss a beat.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jessica. And one of the many perks of working remotely, so to speak, is a little bit of that flexibility, but we obviously always have to keep our students in mind in the best of their interests as well. Now, I do see a question in here about what does training kind of look like for new teachers, and what do we, provide, and what does that look like? Amy, can you talk a little bit about what does training look like for a new teacher if they were to come in and join us?
Sure. I would say training is so different compared to what a brick and mortar would be, because when you get trained, you come in, you get these one-on-one sessions. We have what's called lead teachers. Jessica's probably a lead teacher, so she probably helps with training. You have these lead teachers that help you, and they will have different sessions with you. So you get at least one full week of training. If you start in the beginning of the year, you get all kinds of training. But if you came in mid-year because you found a position, you're available, you get a week's training where you're just working on the programs, learning the programs, hearing about it. You learn about Neuro. You'll get the K-12 training that's automatically assigned to you, but then your principal assigns other trainings they think that you might need. And then you get one-on-one training with these leads. Then you get the opportunity to watch all the other staff. So you'll get invited to different Neuro sessions so that you can see how the different teachers teach. So you may be teaching kindergarten, but you may go to a first and second grade class too, to see how those teachers teach. So you know what the students have to look forward to, and then you can figure out how you can incorporate certain styles of teaching into your own classroom. So it gives you an opportunity to look at different styles of how the different teachers teach, and then figure out what your style will be. So it gives you a great opportunity to experience other live classes before you actually have to dive in and do it yourself.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that insight. I will say this was my first true remote position, and joining a company, I was very afraid of being a people person, hence why I'm a recruiter, not feeling that connection towards my team. And that is almost the complete opposite. I felt even more connected to my current team than I did working in person, just because we have to have that consistent communication. We don't see each other passing. So, having the teams, having the Zoom chat up, connecting with your coworkers and with your manager, and for me, the heads of schools, and what that kind of looks like. The communication is almost even better, just because we all know we have to be that much better at it, really strive for it. So feeling that lack of, not that team effort is not something that I have personally felt with a year at the company, because we're all kind of in the same boat. We all understand that we have to be up to par with that communication. So it's really good to hear. I do see a lot of questions in here, people asking about their particular application and what a particular salary scale looks like for that school and for that district. We ask that you reach out to the recruiting team. We have lots of recruiters. We have lots of different schools that represent them. We will be able to look into your application and let you know salary scale of what that kind of looks like. And you can reach us at recruiting@k12.com. So any kind of inquiries that you have about your own personal application, that your own personal job description that you are interested in, please feel free to reach out to that, and we will make sure the recruiter that is assigned to that school will reach out to you on, whatever kind of questions you have about your application or that particular school. There was a question on here, is if the position is filled, do we take it off of our website? Yes, our openings on our website are live feeds that happen. So the minute we get an opening, we are going it through their approval process and posting it and sharing it out to you guys. So consistently checking positions on our website is going to be very key, especially since we're already starting to talk and hire people for next school year. Super excited about that. We're getting ahead of the curveball. So we are already talking about and hiring people for school year 22-23. With that being said, you know, it really takes enrollment into consideration. What does current staff look like, where we have projections and students to grow. So while we get the numbers in, while we are getting that data in, we are then posting more and better positions to come through on our website. So if you go in there and you're looking for let's say an art teacher over at Texas and there's not an opening, doesn't mean it won't be there next week as we're getting those numbers in and things are happening. So checking our career website on a daily or weekly basis, daily might be a little excessive, so a weekly basis on what we have available is going to be really key over the next month or two, as we're going to start potentially growing our schools and what that kind of looks like as far as enrollment numbers. Awesome. Let's see what else we have here.
I know that somebody asked about materials last time, and it made me think of it this time, that's something that a lot of the teachers ask about. What are we given when we start as a teacher? You are given a laptop, you're given, in most cases, a headset, like something like this, that's wireless. You're always given an extra monitor, because once you have more than one monitor, you can't go back.
Yep.
And it gives you a chance to have multiple things open at the same time. You get the curriculum. So you get what the students get. Like Jessica said earlier, there's that science kit, that art kit. So if you're teaching a specific course or a grade, you get all the same stuff, that materials the student would get. So you get to see what they get. You get to use that as references. And it gives you an opportunity to know the curriculum backwards and forwards. So you are given all the same materials as the students, so you have access to them. So like you can say to the kids, here, use this, you should have it. Or this is what your book looks like. And in kindergarten, I'm sure Kara has that all the time, because I remember when I had to do that.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Amy. Now, I do see a question in here about, you know, if you were to start at a school, reside in that state, and you were to move, could you get a transfer, or what that looks like? Being a military spouse and used to moving all the time, the company really, if they have a good, strong, talented person, they will find a will or a way to work it. Obviously, each school and each state kind of has its own different guidelines. So if it's saying, you know, you have to reside in Washington and you move to New Mexico, we have a school in New Mexico. So that would be conversations you kind of have with your current manager and that manager over there on, you know, what that kind of looks like. I see a lot of internal transfers on my level of people who kind of moved without the US for whatever reason, if they're able to stay with their current school because they have that bandwidth to support a different residency requirement, or if they have a different within the state that you're moving to, they have a school there. There is a lot of talks between the schools of what that looks like. So we do try to keep you within the Stride family and see you transfer over to a different school, or we kind of are allowed to do a residency requirement within a different state. It would really be on a case-by-case basis. But a big reason why I joined the company is because I am forever moving and forever changing. So it is something that is again, a big perk with the company, and then also working remotely as well. All righty. I'm seeing a lot more questions here about case management, kind of like what their student to teacher ratio looks like on that level.
A lot of it depends on the school. A lot of it depends on the school. Like for us, I know Jessica has it a little bit differently than we do. We have your caseload would be about 150 kids, but those are divided into five classes. So that's about 30 kids per class, which is what your normal middle school classroom would be. Same thing with high school, it's about 30 per class, and you teach 5 classes a day. 50 minutes.
Also add to that what Amy said is we do have that same, 150 teacher-student ratio or student-teacher ratio, but the online platforms that we use have embedded quizzes that grade the quizzes for you. And the online school or D2L quizzes actually upload to the gradebook for you. So there's a much lighter load as far as grading goes, especially in math. ELA, of course, you'll still have essays, but so I find that I can easily get all of my job done within the school day, as opposed to when I was in brick and mortar and I was lesson planning and grading and making copies and cutting things out and making my activities after hours, after the school day was over, after my tutoring hours were over. But I can lesson plan, I can create my lessons, I can grade, I can update my grades because there's a little bit of updating from our USA test prep program. But everything I can do within the day on top of communicating with my students. I'll even do one-on-one sessions with students as needed throughout the day. But it's very rare that I actually have to work outside of the workday, which is pretty amazing.
And a lot of the schools are going to a lot of the schools are using Nearpod, which allows a lot of the teachers to get those presentations and those interactive lessons that they do for live instruction. So there isn't as many hours you're spending possibly doing PowerPoint presentations and things like that. You can go to the huge database that Nearpod has, and you can borrow an interactive lesson based on the state standard you're covering and tweak it to what you want, and then have it for your live instruction. So instead of spending an hour and 15 minutes on something, you may spend 15 minutes on something. So it does cut time down, and you can use it for multiple levels.
Perfect. The whole
Something
tip, work smarter, not harder. I love it. Awesome. Now we do have a question in here, Bethany, about IEPs. What part are teachers responsible for completing on those?
So case managers complete their IEPs for their students and are in contact with any related services that the students might have. Speech, OT, PT, social work. We are in contact with the therapists if students have any of those services, and then gather data for progress reporting as we're working with students, and then putting together those plans for our own students. The only difference at my school is for our high schoolers, we do have a transition coordinator that helps with writing transition IEPs for the students in high school 16, turning 16 or 16 over. Michigan is really big on having solid transition plans. So I do have someone that assists my high school teachers with that section of the IEP. Otherwise, case managers typically have just so you might work with another student on someone else's caseload. For example, in high school, we do have an algebra support person because not everybody wants to support algebra. It's not everybody's favorite subject. So we do share occasionally students as far as working with them in those small groups. However, whose ever caseload that student is on, that person is in charge of their IEP. So that's when we collaborate with each other and get all the data needed and write those goals together. So the case manager is in charge of the IEP, and then in collaboration with the other members of the team, we do those just like in brick and mortar. And then our 3-year reevaluations, same process, gathering that information ahead of time, determining if more data needs to be collected. So very similar processes. As a public school, we have to follow all the regulations under IDEA and for Section 504. All the same regulations, processes are in place. They just look a little bit different.
Some great insight there. Thank you so much. Now, someone had asked about if they're not certified and they're working towards their certification, what kind of positions does it look like at Stride? Again, it's really going to be about the school and the school district that they are attached to, what that looks like. Most of our teaching positions, so if they have the teacher title in there, are going to require an active certification within that subject. We do have positions like paraprofessionals or substitute teachers that don't require any kind of certification, and we would put that in the job description for you. So along when we say if it's part-time or full-time, what kind of residency requirement it has, it will give you a certification and what kind of certification that looks like. If it says none, then please feel free to apply. But right now, probably about 80 to 90% of anything that has a teacher title is going to require an active certification within that subject that you are applying to. Certain states, certain schools will allow you to have a certification with outside of that state, and they'll pay for the reciprocity to go and get it into the state that you're applying for. So it would just kind of depend, and it would let you know in the job description of what that looks like. Great questions, everyone.
And I can also mention that for special education, a lot of states have some alternate paths right now to certification because it's a critical shortage area. So we are looking at some other certifications as long as the candidate is willing and passionate about that special education endorsement. We do work with them to work towards whatever that endorsement might be so that they can work with us under the special education capacity. And then I think in some other states probably have that available. It really just depends on the need and how many candidates we have. Special education is a very specific area. So in Michigan, we are trying to reach out a little bit more and find people that are certified teachers or bachelor's degree in certain areas will also qualify for an alternate path to certification. So if you are a general education teacher and considering special education, I would reach out to any of the schools possibly in your state, see if they're open to that. As far as going through the job postings, it won't specify that, so you want to maybe reach out to those schools specifically and just see if they're open to any of that, because as Erica can probably tell you, with the posting it does sort of weed out some of those that aren't qualified. However, my school right now, we're looking outside the box. So just something to keep in mind as well for those of you that might be interested in special education, because it's best way to reach students, in my opinion. So just keep that in mind as well, especially for next year. There's a lot of programs that are opening right now in Michigan that are just sort of early processes, and I know some other states are experiencing that as well. So something to keep in mind.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the insight there. And I think that's, again, a great part of Stride is it's forever changing, forever adjusting to, kind of what the market looks like, the times, the different things that are happening, that they will change and alter to best meet the needs of our students and our teachers and what that kind of looks like. So some key takeaways I wanted to give you all is please feel free to apply to our different postings that we have available. Like I said, we are starting to open our 22-23 school year positions. So there's going to be a lot more opening positions as we are expecting to grow again, which is extremely exciting. Stride has grown year after year, and we are anticipating growing again for next school year. So there are openings being made now and in the near future. So please check out our career page. Again, it is a Boolean search, a bar up at the top that you can put in what kind of subject you want to teach, within what state you want to teach at, or if you reside in a state that we just don't have a school at yet, because we've been around for 20 years, but we're not all throughout the US yet. Do a search just with virtual, and those are going to be your openings that don't have any residency requirements in them. If you do have particular questions about your application or a particular school, please reach out to the recruiting team. This is what we're here for. You're not bugging us by any means. This is our job, is to answer your questions and to find you a great home, hopefully within Stride. So you can reach out to us at recruiting@k12.com, and then we'll make sure whatever recruiter is in charge of that school will reach out to you guys in a timely manner. Thank you all so much for joining. This has been an amazing hour with you guys. It is being recorded, so we will be sending out this recording here shortly so you guys can view it if you were unable to attend or only attend half of it. To our panelists, thank you again for taking time out of your day to talk about all things Stride. I know it's hard to not talk about your particular position or your particular school, but Stride as a whole. So I appreciate you. And to Israel and Myron for answering all your guys' questions in the Q&A. We appreciate the time that you spent out there. So thank you again all for joining us, and hopefully you'll be joining the Stride family soon.